Welcome back, fellow seekers of the shadows. You've tuned into Stories of Crime, the place where the veil between the mundane and the monstrous is brutally ripped away. Tonight, we aren't just reading a report. We are opening a file, marked top priority, tucked away in the darkest corner of the archives. We're going to step across that chalk line and peer into the void, where human nature meets its most terrifying extremes. In this hour, the street lights flicker, the shadows deepen, and the truth is often far more chilling than any fiction you could invent. Forget the heroes. Tonight, we focus on the villains. On the motives that curdle the blood, and the consequences that echo forever. So, dim the lights. Lock your doors. Take a deep, steadying breath, because once the story begins, there's no turning back. This is Stories of Crime. And the case we're unfolding tonight is The Four Just Men. Look, the death warrant. Welcome, dear listeners, to a journey into the shadows, a plunge into the heart of a chilling mystery that grips the very foundations of British society. Today, we open the pages to a classic of suspense, Edgar Wallace's The Four Just Men, and we begin not with a gentle introduction, but with a direct, uncompromising challenge, a death warrant delivered with audacious precision. This is Look, the Death Warrant, the chapter that throws us headfirst into a world where justice is wielded by unseen hands, and a nation's fate hangs precariously in the balance. Imagine, if you will, the bustling, elegant world of London at the turn of the century. Gas lamps cast their soft glow on cobbled streets, hansoms clatter past grand houses of Parliament, and within the hallowed halls of power, the machinery of state hums with predictable, if sometimes ponderous, efficiency. But beneath this veneer of order, a terrifying disruption is about to unfold. Our story doesn't ease us in with character introductions or scene-setting pleasantries. No, it catapults us directly into the eye of a storm meticulously brewed by four individuals who believe themselves above the law, above conventional morality, and indeed, above the very government they intend to challenge. Our focus, our immediate point of entry, is a man whose life is about to be irrevocably altered, Sir Philip Ramone, the British Foreign Secretary. Sir Philip is not just any public servant, he is a man of immense power, responsible for the intricate dance of international diplomacy, safeguarding Britain's interests on the global stage. He is accustomed to threats, certainly, but usually those of political maneuvering, diplomatic standoffs, or the occasional disgruntled constituent. What arrives on his desk one fateful morning, however, transcends all such mundane concerns. It is a communication unlike any he has ever received, a message of pure, unadulterated menace, delivered with a chilling formality that only amplifies its terrifying implications. Picture the scene: a quiet morning, perhaps the air still carrying the scent of breakfast coffee and crisp newspapers. Sir Philip, a man of gravitas and composure, settles into his study, perhaps reviewing dispatches or preparing for a parliamentary debate. He is surrounded by the symbols of his office, the quiet dignity of a statesman at work. Then, among the routine correspondence, a letter stands out. It's not the grand wax seal of an embassy, nor the official crest of a government department. It's something far more sinister in its unassuming presentation. The envelope, perhaps plain, perhaps even cheaply made, contains words that will send a shiver down his spine and, by extension, ripple through the entire British Empire. The letter itself is a masterpiece of audacious defiance. It doesn't mince words, doesn't hide behind euphemism or veiled threats. It is direct, brutally so. Let us listen closely to the words that broke the morning calm, the words that announced an assassination before it had even been committed. This, dear listeners, is the chilling opening gambit of the Four Just Men. Sir, we regret to inform you that, in consequence of your attitude on the aliens' extradition bill, it has been decided to remove you from your present position. The date of your removal has been fixed for the 17th instant. Pause and consider those words for a moment. We regret to inform you. What a preposterously polite, almost bureaucratic way to announce a death sentence. It's as if these men are performing a regrettable but necessary public service, a grim administrative task. The detachment, the cold, almost clinical tone, is what makes it so utterly terrifying. It's not a furious rant from a madman, nor a desperate plea from an oppressed faction. It is a judgment, delivered with the unflappable certainty of an official decree. The letter continues, explaining their rationale, devoid of personal animosity, focusing instead on Sir Philip's political actions. They refer to the aliens' extradition bill, a piece of legislation. Intro: the narrator's dossier. Sound of a faint, distant grandfather clock chiming, perhaps a gentle, almost imperceptible creak of a floorboard, then a soft, rhythmic scratch of a quill on parchment, followed by the subtle rustle of aged papers. A gentle, melancholic violin theme begins to fade in, rich with a sense of bygone eras and profound introspection, then subtly recedes to a barely audible underscore, a haunting resonance beneath the narrative. Greetings, esteemed listener, and welcome to this particular chamber of forgotten histories, this digital archive where the echoes of the past are brought forth into the present. My name, for the purposes of this chronicle, is simply the archivist. I am a dedicated chronicler, a digital cartographer navigating the intricate, often murky, waterways of criminal history. My métier is the meticulous observation of the shadows that stretch across the grand, complex tapestry of human endeavor, particularly where the threads of law, morality, and individual conviction intertwine. My domain is not the hallowed, often rigid, halls of academia, nor the bustling, ephemeral newsrooms of Fleet Street, perpetually chasing the latest scoop. Rather, it is within the quiet, dust-moted corners of forgotten libraries, in the cryptic, often deliberately obscure whispers buried deep within yellowed, brittle police reports, and amidst the enigmatic, chilling echoes of cases that have, for too long, remained cold, their true essence stubbornly eluding definitive resolution. Tonight, we embark upon a profound, perhaps even disquieting, journey into one such profound enigma, a narrative that has, for well over a century, lingered tantalizingly in the peripheral vision of official records, a story whispered in hushed, almost reverent tones within certain circles, yet rarely, if ever, truly elucidated in its full, unsettling grandeur. We delve into the extraordinary, the almost terrifying, and undeniably influential saga of the Four Just Men. My fundamental purpose, you must understand, is not merely to recount a series of events, nor to simply narrate a plot. No, my ambition is far grander, far more immersive. It is to dissect with precision, to analyze with intellectual rigor, and, most importantly, to breathe vibrant, palpable life back into the skeletal remains of narratives long since laid to rest. It is to place you, my discerning fellow investigator, firmly and unyieldingly within the very heart of the matter, to allow you to not merely observe, but to genuinely experience the dense, often oppressive atmosphere, the pervasive tension that permeates every page, and the profound moral ambiguities that so distinctly defined an entire historical era. And what an era it was! Before we plunge headlong into the particulars of our subjects, we must, first and foremost, meticulously transport ourselves. Cast your mind, if you will, across the vast, undulating expanse of time, back to the nascent, still unfolding years of the 20th century, a period often superficially romanticized in popular culture, yet, upon closer, more critical inspection, found to be absolutely brimming with its own unique, gnawing anxieties, its own profound, often unsettling, social transformations, and its own peculiar, often unsettling, brand of darkness. We journey, unequivocally, to Edwardian London. Imagine, for a vivid moment, the sprawling, indomitable city itself. A veritable leviathan of industry and burgeoning empire, its very breath a heady, almost suffocating mixture of dense, acrid coal smoke emanating from countless chimneys, mingling with the subtle, sometimes cloying, perfumes of privilege wafting from aristocratic carriages and elegant drawing rooms. Its heart pulsed with a relentless, inexorable thrum of commerce, ambition, and the ceaseless grinding of social machinery. This was a London that, even as the new century dawned with its intoxicating promises of modernity, innovation, and an unstoppable march of progress, remained deeply and irrevocably steeped in the weighty, often contradictory, legacy of the Victorian age. The very air I. Chapter 1. The Unyielding Minister. Sound of subtle, atmospheric music, perhaps a low hum or gentle synth, setting a serious, contemplative tone. Fades slightly as narration begins. Welcome, dear listeners, to an enthralling journey into the world of Edgar Wallace, a master of suspense and intricate plotting. Today, we delve into the very first chapter of his iconic thriller, The Four Just Men, a tale that explores the delicate balance between law and justice, duty, and morality. Our focus, as we begin this gripping narrative, is on a man who stands at the epicenter of a nation's controversy, a figure whose unyielding will sets the stage for a dramatic clash of ideals. We are, of course, talking about Chapter 1, The Unyielding Minister. Our story opens by introducing us to Sir Philip Ramone, His Majesty's Principal Secretary of State for the Home Department, a title that might sound grand and perhaps a little archaic to modern ears, but which, in the context of early 20th century Britain, signified immense power and responsibility. Ramone was not just any politician, he was a colossus in his field, a man whose presence commanded immediate respect, and often, immediate fear. He was known for his formidable intellect, his piercing gaze, and a demeanor that could best be described as austere, even glacial. Imagine, if you will, a figure carved from granite, unyielding, impassive. That was Sir Philip Ramone. He possessed a mind like a finely honed instrument, capable of dissecting complex legal arguments with surgical precision, yet seemingly devoid of the warmer, more empathetic currents that often define human interaction. His colleagues, his subordinates, and indeed, the public at large, perceived him as brilliant, undeniably effective, but also alarmingly cold. There was an almost robotic certainty to his actions, a conviction that once a course of action was determined, no amount of public outcry, no emotional appeal, could sway him. He was, in essence, the embodiment of an immovable object, unwavering in his principles, or perhaps, more accurately, unwavering in his convictions, irrespective of the human cost. His political adversaries often found themselves frustrated, baffled by his steadfast refusal to engage in the usual give and take of parliamentary debate. Ramone did not negotiate, he declared. He did not compromise, he enforced. This obstinacy, while a source of immense power in certain political arenas, also rendered him an isolated, almost monolithic figure. He stood apart, not merely by virtue of his office, but by the very fabric of his personality. It wasn't that he was necessarily cruel, but rather, he operated on a plane of pure logic and perceived duty, where the messy complexities of human emotion and individual suffering were, at best, secondary considerations. He was a man driven by a singular, unshakable belief in the righteousness of his own vision, a vision he equated with the greater good of the state. Now, this formidable character found himself at the heart of a maelstrom, a controversy that had gripped the nation and, indeed, the international community. The source of this tempest was a piece of legislation known as the Aliens Extradition Bill. To fully grasp the gravity of this bill, and why it became the focal point of such intense anger, we must understand its core provisions. The Aliens Extradition Bill was designed to grant the British government unprecedented powers to extradite foreign nationals, particularly political refugees, back to their home countries. In an era often marked by political upheaval across Europe, think of autocratic regimes, revolutionary movements, and the countless individuals seeking asylum from persecution, Britain had long been considered a sanctuary. It was a haven where those fleeing political oppression could find refuge, a place where their cries for liberty, though perhaps unheard in their homelands, would not be met with immediate rendition. However, Ramon's bill sought to dismantle this tradition. It proposed that upon request from a foreign power, the British government could, undersea. Chapter 2: A History of Retribution. Welcome back to The Four Just Men, where tonight we delve into the shadows of their past, unearthing the chilling legacy that precedes their current endeavor. In Chapter 2, A History of Retribution, we will journey through the annals of their dark justice, exploring the audacious exploits that have cemented their place in the collective consciousness as both terrifying avengers and whispered heroes. Their credibility, you see, isn't built on rumor alone, but on a meticulously crafted history of swift, undeniable retribution. The tale of the Four Just Men is not a recent phenomenon. Long before their current target, their names, or rather, their collective moniker, echoed through the opulent halls of Europe, leaving a trail of dread and, for many, a strange, undeniable sense of satisfaction. These were not random acts of violence, but precision strikes, each one a grim testament to their unyielding code. We speak of assassinations, yes, but of a particular, almost surgical variety, targeting individuals whose corruption had festered unchecked, poisoning the very fabric of society. Consider, if you will, the infamous case of Baron von Strauss in Prussia. A titan of industry, his wealth was built on the broken backs of countless laborers, his factories churning out not just goods, but misery and despair. He wielded immense political influence, effectively making him untouchable by conventional law. Petitions were ignored, protests crushed, and the cries of the impoverished fell on deaf ears. Then came the Four Just Men. Their warning, a stark, simple note, was dismissed as a crank's delusion. But within days, von Strauss, in the privacy of his supposedly impenetrable estate, was found deceased. No forced entry, no struggle, just the subtle signature of an unyielding purpose. The public reaction was a storm of conflicting emotions, shock at the audacity, but beneath it, a current of grim satisfaction that a man who had skirted justice for so long had finally met his reckoning. Then there was Minister Alphonse Dubois, a seemingly benevolent figure in the French government, whose public persona masked a viper's nest of backroom deals and illicit appropriations of public funds meant for the most vulnerable. His corruption was so deeply entrenched, so carefully hidden behind layers of legal loopholes and political allies, that he believed himself immune. The Parisian press, initially skeptical, soon found themselves reporting on his sudden, inexplicable demise. The details were always sparse, the method often elusive, but the message was consistently clear: no one, regardless of power or position, was beyond the reach of the four just men's brand of justice. These weren't acts of mere vengeance, they were calculated executions designed to dismantle systems of oppression, one corrupt architect at a time. The sheer audacity of these acts, occurring across borders, always against figures of immense power and influence, began to weave a tapestry of their legend. Each successful hit added another layer of mystique, another proof of their chilling efficiency. Their targets were invariably those who had exploited the weak, betrayed public trust, or manipulated legal systems for personal gain, leaving a wake of human suffering in their path. The authorities, naturally, were not merely observers. From the hallowed halls of Scotland Yard to the intricate networks of the Shroud, and even further afield into the fledgling intelligence agencies of various European nations, a global bounty was placed on their heads. It wasn't just a monetary reward, it was a matter of national pride, of governmental authority. The very idea that four individuals could operate with such impunity, crossing sovereign borders to execute targets deemed untouchable by the law, was an affront to every established legal and political institution. The bounty was astronomical, a fortune capable of tempting even the most loyal or the most principled. Imagine the vast resources poured into their pursuit, detectives burning the midnight oil, informants risking their. Chapter 3, Scotland Yard mobilizes. Welcome back to our journey through the gripping world of Edgar Wallace's The Four Just Men. In our previous chapter, we witnessed the audacious declaration of intent from these mysterious vigilantes. Now, as the challenge has been laid bare, we turn our attention to the formidable machinery of law and order, specifically to the iconic Scotland Yard, as it mobilizes to confront an unprecedented threat. This is Chapter 3, Scotland Yard mobilizes. The very air in Whitehall seemed to crackle with an almost palpable tension. News of the Four Just Men's chilling ultimatum had not merely spread, it had permeated every corridor of power, every hushed conversation among the city's elite, like a cold, creeping fog. And at the epicenter of the official response, A figure of unwavering resolve was already at work, his mind a labyrinth of strategies and contingencies. This was Superintendent Falmouth, a man whose name was synonymous with meticulous investigation and an unyielding dedication to the law. Superintendent Falmouth was not a man easily rattled. His career at Scotland Yard had been long, distinguished, and studded with successes born of sheer grit and an almost uncanny ability to piece together the most fragmented of clues. He possessed a rugged, almost craggy face, etched with the countless hours spent poring over evidence under the dim gaslight of his office, or pacing the cold, grimy streets of London's underbelly. His eyes, though often weary, held a sharp, intelligent glint, missing nothing, observing everything. He moved with the quiet authority of a man who knew his own mind, and who, more importantly, knew the intricate workings of the criminal mind he so often pursued. Falmouth was the very embodiment of the seasoned professional, pragmatic, relentless, and utterly unimpressed by theatrics. But even Falmouth felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach as he reread the anonymous, audacious declaration. This was different. This was not a common thief, a desperate killer, or even a cunning con artist. This was a direct, public challenge to the very foundation of British justice, issued with a precision and confidence that spoke of genuine capability, not mere bravado. The Four Just Men. The name itself was a deliberate provocation, an attempt to cloak their criminal intentions in a shroud of moral superiority, a tactic that grated on Falmouth's deeply ingrained sense of order and legal process. He despised their self-proclaimed righteousness, their arrogant assumption that they could sit in judgment and execute their own brand of justice outside the established framework of society. Just man, indeed, he muttered to himself, the words barely a whisper, yet laced with a profound contempt. They are nothing more than anarchists, murderers in waiting, hiding behind a veil of high-minded principles. His jaw tightened. He knew, with a certainty that was both chilling and motivating, that apprehending these individuals was not merely another case. It was a crusade. A direct affront to his personal code, to the uniform he wore, and to the authority he represented. He had dedicated his life to upholding the law, to ensuring that justice, however imperfect, was dispensed through legitimate channels. And now, these four unknowns dared to undermine that very principle. Falmouth's determination wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. He remembered cases from his past, complex webs of deceit and violence that had tested his mental fortitude to its limits. The Whitechapel Strangler case, though ultimately unsolved by his generation, had left an indelible mark, teaching him the terrifying power of an elusive enemy. He had seen the fear, the panic, the breakdown of public trust when a criminal seemed untouchable. He vowed, with every fiber of his being, that these four just men would not become another legend, another ghost haunting the city. They would be caught. They had to be. The immediate imperative, of course, was the Foreign Secretary, Sir Philip Ramone. His life, by the Four's explicit declaration, was forfeit. Chapter 4, The Second Warning. Welcome back, dear listeners, to another gripping chapter of The Four Just Men. We delve once more into a world teetering on the edge of law and justice, where the shadows hold secrets and the pursuit of righteousness takes on an ominous, unrelenting form. In our last installment, the chilling first warning landed like a thunderclap, shaking the very foundations of Sir Philip Ramone's carefully constructed world and sending ripples of alarm through the highest echelons of Scotland Yard. The message was stark, the threat undeniable, and the air crackled with an unspoken question: who were these men? And how could they possibly achieve their impossible aims? Today, we step into a deeper, more unsettling phase of this psychological battleground. We're moving into Chapter 4, The Second Warning, a moment that solidifies the just men's terrifying prowess and plunges both their target and the entire police force into a desperate spiral of fear, frustration, and a profound sense of utter helplessness. If the first letter was a mere tremor, this second one is an earthquake, designed not just to threaten, but to utterly dismantle the psychological defenses of everyone involved. Imagine, if you will, the atmosphere surrounding Sir Philip Ramone following that initial, audacious threat. The man, a powerful figure accustomed to wielding influence and authority, was now a prisoner within his own gilded cage. Every shadow held a potential threat, every unfamiliar face a harbinger of doom. His personal security, once a mere formality, had transformed into an ironclad fortress. Scotland Yard, stung by the audacity of the first note's delivery, had mobilized an unprecedented level of protection. Ramone's residence became a veritable stronghold, bristling with uniformed officers and plainclothes detectives. They scrutinized every visitor, searched every package, meticulously checked every nook and cranny of the sprawling estate. Surveillance was constant, unyielding. It was, to all appearances, an impenetrable shield. The police commissioner, a man of unwavering resolve and a lifetime of experience battling the criminal underworld, had personally overseen the implementation of these measures. He had sworn to protect Ramon, to catch these elusive just men who dared to challenge the very fabric of British law. His reputation, the credibility of the entire police force, hung in the balance. There was no room for error, no tolerance for oversight. Every man on the force understood the gravity of their mission. Their vigilance was absolute, their focus laser sharp. Days turned into a week, each moment punctuated by a tense, waiting silence. Ramon, though outwardly composed, was a bundle of nerves beneath the veneer. He jumped at shadows, his sleep was fitful, haunted by the specter of these mysterious avengers. The police, too, were on edge, their nerves frayed by the relentless, uneventful watch. They patrolled, they observed, they waited. But the just men, as we are learning, do not operate within the conventional bounds of expectation. And then, it happened. The impossible. The utterly inconceivable. It was during a routine, almost ritualistic, security check that the second warning made its horrifying appearance. Sir Philip Ramon was in his study, a room that had been swept clean of any potential hiding places a dozen times a day, a room always under direct surveillance, either by an officer stationed at the door or by plainclothesmen observing from nearby vantage points. He had just finished a tense telephone conversation with the commissioner, reiterating his growing fear, his sense of being suffocated by this unseen enemy. He hung up the receiver, his hand trembling slightly, and then, as he turned to pick up a document from his desk, his gaze fell upon something utterly foreign, utterly out of place. Nestled amongst his neatly arranged papers, directly on his pristine blotter, lay a small, folded piece of paper. It was identical in every chilling detail to the first note, the same distinctive typeface, the same crisp, expensive paper. Chapter 5, The Man from the Streets. Welcome, dear listeners, to another compelling chapter in our exploration of Edgar Wallace's masterful thriller, The Four Just Men. As we delve into Chapter 5, The Man from the Streets, we shift our gaze decisively from the hallowed halls of power, from the secretive deliberations of ministers and detectives, to the bustling, throbbing, very human heart of London itself. Up until now, we've witnessed the audacious threat delivered, the government's initial, almost dismissive reaction, and the chilling certainty emanating from the four avengers. But what precisely happens when such a monumental, unprecedented challenge spills beyond the confined, often insulated, circles of officialdom and crashes headlong into the consciousness of the everyday citizen? What are the immediate, tangible effects when the abstract concept of a distant threat becomes a very real, very personal, and deeply unsettling fear for millions of ordinary men and women? This chapter, The Man from the Streets, is precisely where Wallace, with his keen journalistic eye and profound understanding of human nature, brilliantly captures this seismic shift in perspective. It's where the collective anxieties, the raw, visceral fears, the desperate hopes, and the often misguided, yet understandable, interpretations of the common man come roaring, almost volcanically, to the forefront of the narrative. It's a fascinating, almost anthropological, study in mass psychology, a raw, unfiltered, deeply empathetic look at how an entire society grapples with an existential threat when its appointed leaders appear either tragically impotent to prevent it or, perhaps even worse, stubbornly defiant in the face of widespread public alarm. The London of the Four Just Men is about to discover, in the most unsettling manner possible, that the threat against Sir Philip Ramone, the Home Secretary, is not merely against one individual, but fundamentally against their cherished sense of security, their ingrained faith in established authority, and perhaps even the very foundations of their orderly way of life. This isn't just political intrigue anymore. This is a deeply human drama unfolding on the grand stage of a terrified metropolis. The first and most immediate barometer of this profound societal shift, as it always has been and perhaps always will be, was the omnipresent, ever-hungry press. London's newspapers, those tireless, churning engines of public opinion and, quite often, unfortunately, public panic, seized upon the story of the Four Just Men with an almost ravenous appetite, a journalistic feeding frenzy. What had begun as a hushed whisper circulating in the rarefied air of political corridors quickly transformed into a deafening, inescapable roar echoing across every single newsstand, from the grandest thoroughfares to the humblest back alleys. Imagine, if you will, the palpable tension of the morning rush, the throngs of commuters spilling from trains and omnibuses, the industrious workers beginning their day, the dignified gentlemen heading to their exclusive clubs, all reaching instinctively for their preferred daily paper. And there, staring back at them from the boldest, most impactful headlines, was the chilling, unavoidable narrative, rendered in stark black and white. Let us transport ourselves back to that tumultuous, anxious time, to those very pages, printed on slightly coarse paper, that both reflected and fueled the city's rapidly accelerating apprehension. Picture, if your mind's eye allows, a sensationalist tabloid, perhaps imaginatively titled The Daily Scream or The London Chronicle, its front page not merely displaying text, but ablaze with a stark, almost accusatory declaration. This was the kind of headline that didn't just convey information, it reached out and grabbed you by the lapels, refusing to release its grip. Minister's life in peril. 4 mysterious men defy government. Is London safe? Unprecedented threat rocks capital. Beneath that alarming, almost hysterical, banner, a breathless, urgent report might unfold, detailing. Chapter 6, Clues in the Cafe. Welcome back, listeners, to the 4 Just Men. We've journeyed through the unsettling initial threats, witnessed the audacious murder of Secretary of State T.P. Selby, and felt the tremors of a nation grappling with an unseen, unyielding enemy. Now, as the dust settles, or rather, as it billows thicker in the smoggy streets of London, the spotlight swings sharply onto the meticulous, often frustrating, world of detective work. This is Chapter 6, Clues in the Cafe, and it plunges us headfirst into the desperate, relentless pursuit of a man who might just hold the key to understanding the 4 Just Men. We're talking about a deep dive into the painstaking process of police investigation, a game of cat and mouse played out in the labyrinthine heart of London. The clock is ticking, the pressure is immense, and the stakes could not be higher. The police, under the formidable command of Scotland Yard's finest, are no longer groping entirely in the dark. A name has surfaced, a name whispered with a mixture of fear and suspicion in certain circles, Theory. Not an unfamiliar name to the authorities, by any means. Theory, you see, was a known anarchist, a firebrand with a history of incendiary rhetoric and, more worryingly, suspected affiliations with various underground movements. He was a fringe player in the grand scheme of things, perhaps, but a known quantity, a radical with a penchant for revolutionary ideals that aligned, ominously, with the audacious claims of the four just men. Their intelligence suggested a possible, however tenuous, connection between Theory and the shadowy quartet. For the police, desperate for any solid lead, Theory represented a tangible thread, a human connection in a case that had, until now, felt almost supernatural in its elusiveness. If the four were indeed human, flesh and blood, then perhaps Theory was their weak link. And so, the manhunt for Theory began in earnest. It wasn't a glamorous pursuit, not a high-speed chase through moonlit alleys. No, this was the patient, soul-crushing grind of surveillance, a painstaking process that would test the endurance and ingenuity of London's finest. The police, you must understand, were not just looking for a man, they were looking for a ghost. Theory was known for his ability to vanish, to blend into the teeming masses of London, a master of anonymity in a city built for it. His haunts were predictable, yet his movements were anything but. He was a creature of habit, frequenting certain working-class cafes and political meeting spots, but also prone to sudden, unpredictable disappearances. The strategy was clear, albeit daunting. They would blanket the city, focusing their efforts on the cafes Theory was known to frequent. These establishments, often smoky, bustling, and filled with the chatter of 1,000 different lives, became the focal points of the investigation. Imagine the scene: the narrow, gas-lit streets of London, perpetually damp and cloaked in a perpetual twilight, where the gas lamps cast long, dancing shadows. Inside these cafes, the air was thick with the aroma of strong coffee, stale tobacco, and the faint, sweet scent of cheap pastries. They were sanctuaries for the working man, havens for political debate, and, for the police, potential traps. The stakeout scenes were a masterclass in quiet tension. Plainclothes officers, blending seamlessly with the ordinary patrons, would sit for hours, nursing lukewarm teas or untouched coffees, their eyes constantly scanning, their ears straining to catch a familiar voice, a telltale phrase. There was Inspector Falmouth, a man whose face was a roadmap of sleepless nights and the weight of countless unsolved cases, now more haggard than ever. He coordinated the efforts, dispatching his most trusted men, knowing that one misstep, one moment of inattention, could cost them everything. Picture a young constable, perhaps new to the complexities of plainclothes work, his heart thumping against his ribs with a mixture of excitement and dread. He's dressed in a rough tweed jacket, a cap pulled low over his. Chapter 7, The Interrogation. Sound of a bustling city street, fading slightly to an interior office hum. Narrator, the labyrinthine corridors of Scotland Yard, a fortress of law and order, hummed with a quiet urgency. The air, thick with the scent of stale coffee and desperation, seemed to press down on every man and woman within its formidable walls. Days had bled into weeks since the chilling declaration of the four just men had first shaken the very foundations of London society, and still, their shadow loomed large, a persistent, unsettling presence. Inspector Falmouth, a man etched by years of relentless pursuit, by countless nights battling the city's darker currents, felt the weight of that shadow more keenly than most. His brow, habitually furrowed in thought, now bore the deeper lines of profound frustration, a silent testament to the elusive nature of his quarry. The traditional methods, the exhaustive legwork, the meticulous sifting through evidence, all seemed to falter against an enemy so utterly unconventional, so chillingly devoid of the common criminal's predictable motives. This wasn't about greed, nor jealousy, nor the raw, untamed passion that so often fueled crime. This was about an ideology, cold and unyielding, a perverse sense of justice that placed itself above all law, all established authority. How do you corner a phantom driven by an idea? How do you interrogate a whisper that carries the force of a thunderclap? Then, a flicker of light in the overwhelming darkness. A subtle disturbance in the intricate web of connections surrounding the elusive Mr. George Manfred, an individual whose brief, unsettling encounter with Falmouth had left an indelible mark. Manfred, a man who had vanished almost as quickly as he appeared, leaving behind only tantalizing fragments of his fleeting existence. It was a painstaking task, tracing his ghost-like movements, following the faintest echoes of his presence through the city's subterranean channels. But Falmouth, a bloodhound of the law, possessed an unyielding tenacity, a relentless dedication to his sworn duty. The breakthrough came not with a bang, but with a whimper. A young man, barely out of his teens, named Arthur Finch, known only for his petty dealings in the darker corners of the city's docklands, had been observed attempting to dispose of certain items which, upon closer inspection, bore a disturbing resemblance to effects previously linked to the vanished Manfred. It was a thread, slender and fragile, but in the oppressive silence of the investigation, it felt like a lifeline. The arrest itself was swift, unceremonious, a brutal clash between the raw, unrefined energy of youth and the steely, calculated resolve of the law. Finch, a creature of the shadows, was dragged, protesting vehemently, into the stark, uncompromising glare of Scotland Yard. His cries, shrill and defiant, echoed briefly through the corridors, only to be swallowed by the institution's suffocating silence. Sound of a door creaking open, then a heavy thud as it closes. Faint shuffling. Narrator: the interrogation room was a sterile, unforgiving space. A bare bulb, stark and unblinking, hung from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows that danced with the nervous energy in the air. The walls, painted a grim, institutional gray, seemed to absorb all sound, all hope, leaving only the raw, unvarnished truth to contend with itself. In the center, a worn wooden table, scarred by countless untold stories, bore witness to the silent drama unfolding. Two chairs faced each other across it, stark symbols of opposition. Inspector Falmouth entered, his presence filling the room with an unspoken authority. He wasn't a man given to theatrics, nor did he rely on brute force. His weapon was his mind, his keen observation, his unwavering focus. He observed Arthur Finch, slumped in the chair opposite, a picture of petulant defiance. Finch's eyes, darting and suspicious, held a mixture of fear and bravado. He was a small-time operator, caught in a game far beyond his understanding, a pawn in a deadly chess match. Arthur Finch. Chapter 8, The Third Warning. Welcome back, dear listeners, to our audiobook channel. Today, we invite you to step into a chapter filled with intense drama and suffocating tension, a chapter where the veil of mystery is slowly lifted, even as fear multiplies many times over. We are speaking of Chapter 8, titled The Third Warning. This is a pivotal chapter, where everything begins to tighten, where the web woven by the group known as the Four Righteous Men finally closes in on its prey. The tension no longer comes solely from the outside, it rises from deep within the minds of those under threat. At the heart of this chapter lies the final warning, a warning that is not merely symbolic, but a devastating psychological blow to its target. Here, we witness the relentless tightening of the net around its victim, until the very air becomes oppressive, pressing down on everything from the corridors of government to the most private room of Ramon himself. Let us now step into the story. The atmosphere in London had grown heavier than ever before. After the first two warnings, each delivered in a mysterious and defiant manner, anxiety was no longer a vague sensation. It had transformed into a persistent obsession, an invisible specter haunting every shadowed corner of the city. This obsession clung especially tightly to those charged with maintaining order, those who were desperately trying to decipher the mystery of the four righteous men. And then, on one fateful morning, that fear was reinforced once more by an event that seemed impossible. That was the moment the third letter appeared. Unlike the previous warnings, which had been delivered through mail or traceable though difficult channels, the third warning chose a different path entirely. A path so chilling that even the most seasoned police officers felt a shiver run through them. It appeared inside Ramon's most private room, the one place where he believed himself to be absolutely safe, where every security measure had been tightened to its extreme. Imagine the scene. Ramon, a man renowned for his composure and extraordinary emotional control, steps into his private quarters. This room is not merely a place of rest, it is a fortress, heavily guarded. The door is securely locked, with no gap through which an intruder could slip. The windows are sealed and bolted. Even the air itself seems regulated. And then, he sees it. Resting silently on his desk precisely where he usually leaves his most important documents is a white envelope. A simple envelope, unadorned and plain, yet radiating a bone-chilling cold. There is no postmark. No sender's name. No sign that it has traveled any conventional route. It is simply there, as though born from the air itself, or placed by an invisible ghost. The appearance of this letter is more than a warning, it is a declaration. A declaration that nowhere is safe. A declaration that the four righteous men are not only intelligent and fearless, but capable of bypassing every physical barrier, every security system humanity can devise. It is a cold reminder of helplessness, of the futility of all attempts at protection. Ramon picks up the envelope. The cold from the thin paper seeps into his fingertips and spreads throughout his body. He tears it open. Inside is a short, concise letter, yet one that carries an overwhelming weight. The message needs no elaborate wording, no poetic flourish. Just a few lines are enough to strike directly at his mind, confirming once more that time has run out, that fate has been sealed. This is the final warning. An irreversible verdict. The incident ignites a wave of suspicion and paranoia throughout the police department. The question is no longer how did they do it, but who among us helped them. Doubt begins to sprout, spreading like an invisible virus, corroding trust and unity from within. Is there a traitor? A rat hiding in the shadows, feeding information or worse, actively assisting the very people they are hunting? Only a handful of individuals have access to Ramon's private room, and even they are subjected to rigorous scrutiny. So who was it? Who betrayed that trust? Eyes begin to study one another with suspicion. Every casual conversation becomes a potential red flag. Every gesture, every glance, can be misinterpreted. Paranoia is a slow-acting poison, and it is seeping into the system. Those who once trusted each other now harbor doubts. Unity begins to fracture, and that is exactly what the four righteous men desire. They are not merely attacking their target, they are attacking the structure that protects him, weakening it from within. For Ramon, the arrival of the third letter is a crushing blow. On the surface, he maintains his usual calm. His face remains impassive, his voice steady, his commands firm and decisive. He refuses to let anyone see his weakness, not his enemies, not even those under his command. But inside, a brutal battle is raging. His mind races with unanswered questions. How? Who? And most importantly, is there any escape left? Though he tries to rationalize everything through logic and procedure, a primal fear begins to take root deep within him. The fear of a man being hunted by a force beyond his control, a force that seems almost prophetic, always one step ahead. We can imagine Ramon late at night, after everyone has left, after he has feigned exhaustion to avoid probing eyes. He returns to his room no longer a sanctuary, but a cage, a psychological trap. He sits in silence, staring into empty space, or at the wall as if it might reveal the secrets of those stalking him. Sleep comes in fragments, haunted by nightmares. Every faint sound startles him. Every passing shadow outside the window sends his heart racing. His once unshakable confidence begins to crumble. He questions every decision, every person around him. Can he trust anyone anymore? Are the security measures he painstakingly built truly so useless? This psychological unraveling is not mere anxiety, it is the slow erosion of will, the draining of mental strength. Ramon grows weary, not physically, but in his soul. He begins to see the world through a distorted lens of suspicion. Everything feels dull. Everyone feels distant. And that is the perfect trap. The four righteous men do not wish to destroy Ramon physically. First, they want to break him mentally. They want him to live in fear, in helplessness, before delivering the final blow. This is a war not of brute force alone, but of psychology, where trust and resolve determine survival. And in this war, Ramon is slowly losing. The third warning serves as a grim reminder: in battles of the mind, information is not only power, it is also a burden. Knowing you are being watched, knowing every defense can be effortlessly bypassed, exerts crushing psychological pressure. Ramon is not only facing an invisible enemy, he is facing his own fear and doubt. This creates a cruel paradox. Surrounded by layers of security, Ramon feels more isolated than ever. He cannot share his fear. He cannot voice his suspicions. To do so would weaken his authority, his image. And so, he wears a mask of resilience, control, and unwavering leadership. But that mask is heavy. Each passing day, it weighs more heavily on his soul, and the cracks within him grow wider. The third warning is not merely the story of a mysterious letter. It is the story of a mental fortress collapsing, of fear and suspicion spreading like wildfire. It shows us how psychological pressure can weaken even the strongest of men, even while they remain standing. As this chapter closes, a question lingers in the air. Can Ramon endure this pressure? Or will he collapse before the final warning becomes reality? And more importantly, who is the traitor lurking in the shadows? Or do the four righteous men possess something far more terrifying, a supernatural ability beyond ordinary logic? The answers will unfold in the chapters to come. But one thing is certain: after the third warning, the hunt has entered a new phase. A harsher, more merciless stage. The net has tightened, and the air is thick with tension and fear. We will continue our journey through this gripping story in the chapters ahead, where mysteries will be unraveled and the fates of the characters decided. Thank you for listening, and we'll meet again in the next chapter. Chapter 9: The Fortress of Downing Street. Welcome, dear listeners, back to the gripping narrative of The Four Just Men. In our last installment, the air grew thick with tension, the government paralyzed by an audacious threat, and one man, Sir Philip Ramone, found himself squarely in the crosshairs of an unseen, yet undeniably potent, force. Tonight, as we delve into Chapter 9, The Fortress of Downing Street, we witness an almost unprecedented spectacle, the transformation of a venerable government building into an impregnable stronghold. Imagine, if you will, the very heart of British power, normally a place of measured decorum and quiet authority, now bristling with the desperate energy of a besieged castle. The focus, the singular obsession, became the physical and technical preparations to secure Sir Philip Ramone's location, to create a sanctuary so absolute that even the most cunning mind would deem any breach utterly impossible. The clock was ticking, relentless and unforgiving. The ultimatum from the four just men loomed like a thundercloud on the horizon. Panic, though officially suppressed, vibrated beneath the surface of Whitehall and Downing Street. The objective was simple, yet monumentally complex: prevent the seemingly inevitable. Prevent the assassination of Sir Philip Ramone, an act that threatened to not only humiliate the British government but to fundamentally shake the foundations of its perceived omnipotence. Every resource, every expert, every ounce of strategic thinking was thrown into this singular, all-consuming task. The message from the highest echelons was clear: failure was not an option. Downing Street itself, usually a bustling thoroughfare, became a zone of heightened security. The quiet hum of official business was replaced by the metallic clang of reinforcement, the hushed, urgent whispers of men under immense pressure. Barricades, sturdy and unyielding, sprouted overnight, channeling traffic and pedestrians away from the Prime Minister's residence and the surrounding governmental buildings. Police presence, already significant, swelled to unprecedented levels. Officers, stern-faced and vigilant, stood sentinel at every approach, their eyes scanning constantly, searching for any anomaly, any hint of the clandestine. Every delivery, every visitor, every soul wishing to enter the perimeter was subjected to meticulous scrutiny, a thoroughness that bordered on the obsessive. Identity checks became forensic examinations, packages x-rayed and painstakingly opened. The entire street, a symbol of stability, was now cloaked in an aura of siege, a fortress in the making, and the air crackled with an almost palpable sense of apprehension. But these external measures, impressive as they were, represented only the outer shell of the defense. The true focus, the core of this desperate endeavor, was Sir Philip Ramone's appointed chamber. This room, destined to be his sanctuary, his prison, his potential tomb, was to undergo the most extreme transformation. The authorities understood that the four just men were not common criminals. Their methods were rumored to be ingenious, their planning meticulous, their execution flawless. Therefore, nothing could be left to chance. Every surface, every seam, every potential weakness had to be anticipated, addressed, and ultimately, neutralized. The very concept of secure was redefined, stretched to its absolute limits, pushed into the realm of the seemingly unassailable. Let us detail these extraordinary measures, for they paint a vivid picture of the paranoia and the sheer technical prowess brought to bear against an unseen enemy. First, consider the windows. Windows, by their very nature, are points of vulnerability, connections to the outside world. Not for Sir Philip Ramone's room. Every window was not merely locked, it was permanently sealed. Imagine massive steel plates, custom fabricated, bolted not just to the frames, but directly into the masonry of the building, rendering them immovable, impenetrable. Beyond the steel, multi-layered, bulletproof glass, several inches thick, was installed. Chapter 10, The Politics of Anarchy. Welcome back, dear listeners, to our ongoing journey through Edgar Wallace's thrilling tale, The Four Just Men. In our last chapter, we were left with a profound sense of unease, a chilling realization that the four just men were not merely common criminals, but men operating with an almost surgical precision, driven by a conviction far deeper than simple malice. Their actions, though undeniably violent, seemed to stem from a place of radical ideology, a terrifying, unyielding belief in a higher purpose. Now, as we delve into Chapter 10, aptly titled The Politics of Anarchy, we peel back yet another layer of this intricate narrative, moving beyond the immediate acts of defiance to explore the very heart of their philosophy, the tempest brewing in the hallowed halls of power, and the profound, deeply uncomfortable questions of justice and morality that their very existence forces us, and the characters within the story, to confront head-on. This chapter, then, is less about direct action and more about the insidious philosophy underpinning it, the seismic shifts occurring within the political landscape, and the terrifying, almost elegant, defiance exhibited by the enigmatic just men. At the core of this chapter, and indeed, central to the entire narrative, lies a philosophical debate as old as civilization itself, one that continues to plague ethicists, philosophers, and individuals grappling with moral dilemmas in every era. Is murder ever justifiable for the greater good? It is a question that tears at the fabric of our most deeply held beliefs, forcing us to confront the uncomfortable possibility that in certain extreme circumstances, the taking of a human life might, paradoxically, serve a higher, more beneficial purpose for society as a whole. The four just men, in their terrifying certainty, unequivocally answer this question with a resounding, chilling yes. They position themselves not as murderers driven by personal gain or vengeance, but as reluctant executioners, agents of a necessary evil, believing their violent acts are the only viable path to avert what they perceive as a far greater catastrophe. Consider the utilitarian perspective, an ethical framework that posits the most ethical choice is the one that produces the greatest good for the greatest number. From this vantage point, if the sacrifice of one individual, or even a few, could genuinely prevent widespread suffering, protect fundamental liberties, or avert a national disaster, then a utilitarian might reluctantly argue for its justification. But here lies the terrifying precipice. Who determines this greatest good? Who possesses the authority, the omniscience, to weigh the lives of individuals against the perceived benefit of the many? The just men, with an almost divine self-assurance, appoint themselves as these arbiters, convinced that their judgment is superior, their foresight clearer, than that of the elected officials they so vehemently oppose. Yet, standing in stark opposition to this is the deontological perspective, which argues that certain actions are inherently right or wrong, regardless of their consequences. Murder, under this framework, is almost universally deemed an intrinsically evil act. The idea that the end justifies the means is anathema to deontology, which emphasizes moral duties and rules. To murder, even with the noblest of intentions, is to violate a fundamental moral law, to cross a line from which there can be no return. The danger, of course, with the utilitarian justification for murder, is the terrifying concept of the slippery slope. Once you permit the taking of a life for a supposed greater good, where do you draw the line? Who decides whose life is expendable? What prevents this philosophy from devolving into unchecked tyranny, where any dissenting voice, Any perceived obstacle to the collective can be summarily eliminated in the name of some nebulous progress. The four just men, in their stark declaration, ignore these profound dangers, blinded, perhaps, by the perceived righteousness of their own cause. Chapter 11, The Final Hour. Welcome to Chapter 11 of The Four Just Men, The Final Hour. Tonight, we plunge into the heart of an unbearable vigil, an excruciating countdown to a moment that will forever alter the course of justice, or perhaps, unleash an unprecedented chaos. We are at the precipice, standing alongside the four men whose fate, and indeed the fate of a nation, now hangs by the thinnest thread of time. The clock has just struck 7. A full, agonizing 60 minutes separate them, and us, from the hour of 8. 8 o'clock. The deadline. The moment of truth. The room, once a chamber of meticulous planning and steely resolve, now feels like a tomb. An invisible shroud of anticipation has descended, suffocating the very air. Silence isn't merely the absence of sound, it is a palpable entity here, a heavy, velvet blanket pressing down on every surface, muffling every breath. The four men are there, each a pillar of strained composure, yet beneath the surface, the tension coils and tightens like a spring wound to its absolute breaking point. No one speaks. There is nothing left to say. All strategies have been laid, all warnings delivered. Now, only the relentless march of time remains. 7:01. The minute hand has barely crept past the 12, yet each tick of the distant grandfather clock, a venerable sentinel of time in the hallway, resonates with an almost painful clarity within the room. It's a metallic, insistent rhythm, slicing through the stillness, a cruel reminder of the dwindling moments. Shadows, already long and distorted by the fading light of the late afternoon, begin to deepen their embrace in the corners of the study. They seem to creep inward, like silent, ominous specters gathering to witness the unfolding drama. One of the men, perhaps Gonzales, unconsciously shifts his weight, the subtle creak of leather from his armchair amplifying in the oppressive quiet, sounding like a sudden rupture in the fabric of their shared silence. He doesn't move his gaze from the heavy oak door, as if expecting something, anything, to pierce the quiet and signal a change. 7:02. The air, heavy with unspoken fears, feels cold despite the mild evening. A shiver, not of cold but of profound unease, runs through the room. The men are still. Absolutely still. It's a stillness born of extreme focus, a hyper-awareness of every second slipping away. Each man is lost in his own private calculus of what might happen, what must happen, and the devastating consequences if it does not. The weight of their undertaking, the colossal responsibility of it all, settles on their shoulders like an unbearable burden. They carry not just their own fates, but the future of countless others, the very definition of justice, in these remaining moments. Outside, beyond the thick walls and drawn curtains, the city hums with its usual oblivious rhythm, a distant, mocking murmur of life continuing on, unaware of the silent, desperate battle being waged within these very walls. 7:03. A bead of perspiration, cold and insistent, trickles down the temple of another man, perhaps Manfred. He doesn't wipe it away. His eyes are fixed on nothing in particular, yet they hold the intensity of a man staring into an abyss. His breathing, almost imperceptible moments ago, now seems to grow heavier, more pronounced in the profound quiet, a shallow, ragged intake and release that sounds like a faint rasp against the backdrop of the clock's steady rhythm. The shadows have stretched further, transforming familiar objects into monstrous, elongated shapes, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. The room feels smaller now, the walls closing in, the air growing thin. It is as if the very space itself is holding its breath, waiting. 7:04. A distant hoot of an owl, faint and mournful, penetrates the deep quiet, a sound of nature utterly indifferent to human plights. It serves only to underscore the profound isolation of these four men, locked in their silent vigil. The silence inside the room, paradoxically, is not peaceful. It is a vibrant, throbbing ant. Chapter 12, The Impossible Death. Chapter 12, The Impossible Death. The clock in the Foreign Office tower struck the hour, its chimes reverberating with a dreadful finality across the hushed, expectant city. Each heavy clang of the bell was a hammer blow, not just against the eardrums of those who waited, but against the very fabric of conventional understanding. The air itself seemed to thicken with an unbearable tension, a collective breath held, a silent prayer uttered, a morbid curiosity reaching its crescendo. Outside the heavily guarded residence, a throng of reporters, police, and morbidly fascinated citizens craned their necks towards the imposing facade, their faces illuminated by the flickering gaslights, a sea of anxious, weary eyes fixed on the windows of Ramon's study. They knew the hour. They knew the ultimatum. And now, the moment of truth had arrived. Inside, the silence was absolute, save for the rhythmic tick-tock of a grandfather clock in the hall and the almost imperceptible hum of the gas lamps. Chief Inspector Falmouth, his brow furrowed with an intensity that spoke of sleepless nights and the crushing weight of responsibility, stood rigid beside the heavily reinforced door to Ramon's study. His eyes, normally sharp and commanding, now darted between the gleaming face of his own pocket watch and the unyielding, silent barrier before him. Sergeant Smith and a team of Scotland Yard's finest, their faces grim and set, stood ready, their presence a testament to the unprecedented security measures taken. Every possible entry point had been secured, every window barred, every servant meticulously searched and accounted for. This room, they had sworn, was impenetrable. Ramon was, by all logical deduction, absolutely safe. But logic, it seemed, was about to be turned on its head. A full minute after the final, mournful chime had faded into the night, Falmouth's jaw tightened. The silence from within the study was not reassuring, it was terrifying. It was too profound, too unnatural. He had expected some sign of life, a defiant shout, a nervous cough, anything. But there was nothing. Only the cold, unwavering silence that now felt like a shroud. Now, Falmouth barked, his voice cutting through the thick atmosphere like a knife. His command, though resolute, carried an undertone of desperation, a premonition of the impossible. The sergeant and his men sprang into action. With a deafening crash that seemed to shake the very foundations of the building, the battering ram, wielded by two burly constables, struck the heavy oak door. Splintered wood flew, hinges groaned in protest, and the sound of rending metal echoed through the once stately hall. Again, and again, the ram struck, each blow a brutal punctuation mark against the unearthly silence from within. It was a violent, almost desperate assault, an admission that their meticulous planning, their impenetrable guard, had perhaps failed in a way they could not yet comprehend. Finally, with a protesting groan and a splintering shriek, the door gave way, collapsing inwards with a final, echoing thud. Dust motes danced in the shafts of light that pierced the gloom, stirred by the sudden rush of air. Falmouth, pistol drawn, was the first to surge through the breach, his men fanning out behind him, weapons at the ready, eyes scanning every shadow, every corner, for the phantom assailant they half expected, half dreaded to find. The scene that greeted them was one of chilling stillness, a tableau frozen in time that would forever haunt their memories. The room was exactly as they had last seen it, meticulously tidy, every object in its accustomed place. A large, ornate desk dominated the center, covered with scattered papers, a half-empty teacup, and a heavy, leather-bound book lying open. But their gaze was not drawn to the clutter of everyday life. It was drawn, inexorably, to the figure slumped over the desk. Ramon. He lay perfectly still, his head resting against the polished mahogany, an arm dangling lifelessly towards the floor, his other hand still clutching a pen, as if arrested mid-sentence. Chapter 13. The Solution Revealed. Okay, everyone, buckle up. Welcome to a truly electrifying and utterly captivating special episode of our True Crimes and Ancient Mysteries audiobook series. Today, we're not just reading a chapter, we're peeling back the layers of an enigma, diving deep into Chapter 13 of Edgar Wallace's seminal work, The Four Just Men. This chapter, tellingly titled The Solution Revealed, isn't merely a conclusion, it is, without hyperbole, the pulse-pounding, mind-bending climax to a puzzle that has not only baffled the brightest minds at Scotland Yard but has also held an entire nation in its relentless grip, sparking furious debate and widespread panic. If you have been diligently following our journey through the shadowy world of the Four Just Men, you will, no doubt, vividly recall the impossible, the utterly bewildering murder of Sir Philip Ramone, that towering and controversial figure, the British Foreign Secretary. His lifeless body was discovered in his personal study, a room within the venerable and supposedly impregnable House of Commons. What made this crime so utterly baffling, so infuriatingly unsolvable, was the fact that the room was sealed meticulously from the inside, a fortress of solitude from which no killer could seemingly escape, nor, indeed, enter unnoticed. There was no obvious weapon, no smoking gun, no glinting blade, no blunt instrument. There was no discernible poison, no telltale vial or residue that could point to a nefarious draught. Most frustratingly of all, there was no immediate, apparent cause of death, leaving a gaping void in the police's understanding. The authorities, despite their exhaustive efforts and their formidable resources, were, to put it mildly, utterly at their wits' end. Each new line of inquiry led to a frustrating dead end. Each theory crumbled under the weight of impossible facts. Public outrage, fueled by sensationalist newspaper headlines, was not merely mounting, it was reaching a fever pitch, demanding answers that simply weren't forthcoming. And, as a chilling prelude to this almost supernatural act, the enigmatic four just men, those self-appointed, shadowy vigilante judges of morality and justice, had not just threatened, they had solemnly promised Sir Philip Ramon's demise. And, with a chilling efficiency that spoke volumes about their resolve, they delivered on that ominous vow. But the fundamental question, the one that gnawed at the collective consciousness of the nation and the very fabric of law enforcement, remains stubbornly unanswered. How? How did they accomplish the seemingly impossible feat? That question, like a thick, impenetrable fog, had hung heavy in the air, driving even the most seasoned detectives to the brink of distraction and sending newspaper circulation soaring to unprecedented heights. Today, my friends, we are finally ready to pull back that heavy curtain of intrigue, to pierce through the layers of mystery and shed a brilliant, revealing light on the darkness. We are going to uncover, in painstaking detail, the astonishing, almost unbelievably sophisticated method that George Manfred, Raymond Poincare, Leon Gonzalez, and Richard Tresham, the quartet of masterminds, employed with such chilling effectiveness to execute their unyielding sentence. It is not merely a method, it is a stroke of pure genius, a feat of audacious planning that stands as an enduring testament to their unparalleled brilliance, their almost obsessive meticulousness, and their complete, almost contemptuous disregard for the conventional limitations that bind ordinary criminals and confound ordinary law enforcement. Prepare yourselves, for what you are about to hear will undoubtedly challenge your perceptions of crime, justice, and the sheer power of an unyielding human intellect. The scientific explanation of how this baffling murder was committed is, at long last, about to be laid bare before you. The very core of their diabolical yet brilliant method, the silent, truly invisible assassin, was none other than electricity. Yes, you heard that correctly, electricity. The 7-day strategist plan. Welcome, strategic thinkers, to a new chapter in our exploration of the four just men, but with a profound twist, a shift in focus that promises to unlock dormant potential within you. Today, We're not delving into their intricate plots or their unyielding pursuit of a particular brand of justice. Instead, we're extracting the very essence of their formidable power, their discipline, their meticulous planning, and their unwavering resolve. We are about to embark on the 7-day strategist plan, a journey designed to apply the rigorous methodologies of the just men to your own personal productivity, your goals, and your life's ambitions, all, of course, without the crime. This is about harnessing their genius for self-mastery, for achieving your highest aspirations with precision and purpose. Imagine a group so dedicated, so aligned in their vision, that they could orchestrate events with almost superhuman foresight. What if you could infuse that level of intentionality into your daily existence, transforming sporadic efforts into a powerful, coherent strategy? That's precisely what this 7-day plan is about. It's not a quick fix. It's an immersive experience designed to rewire your approach to challenges, to cultivate a mindset of strategic excellence, and to empower you to move through your personal and professional landscape with the clarity and effectiveness of the 4 just men, albeit for entirely constructive ends. Prepare to dive deep, to challenge your assumptions, and to emerge with a renewed sense of purpose and a blueprint for unwavering action. Let's begin our transformative week. Days 1 and 2. Define your unwavering code and core values. The 4 just men, for all their controversial actions, operated under a clearly defined, albeit self-serving, code. They had a set of principles, rigid and non-negotiable, that guided every decision, every move, every interaction. This was their bedrock, their compass in a morally ambiguous world. For us, aspiring personal strategists, our first and most crucial step is to define our own unwavering code, a set of core values and principles that will serve as our ethical, personal, and professional guide. This isn't just a feel-good exercise, it's the foundation upon which all truly strategic and meaningful action is built. Without a clear code, we are like a ship without a rudder, tossed by every passing current, swayed by external pressures, and ultimately unable to chart a consistent course towards our desired destination. Your unwavering code is your internal constitution, the non-negotiable truths that dictate your choices, your reactions, and your ultimate trajectory. How do you unearth this code? Begin with profound self-reflection. Ask yourself, what truly matters to me, beyond fleeting desires or external validation? What are the principles I would never compromise, even under duress? Think about moments in your life when you felt most authentic, most aligned, most alive. What values were at play in those moments? Conversely, consider times of regret or discomfort. What values were being violated? Journaling is an incredibly powerful tool here. Dedicate significant time on day 1 and day 2 to simply writing, stream of consciousness style, about what you believe in, what you stand for, and what kind of person you aspire to be. Don't censor yourself. Explore questions like, what legacy do I want to leave? What defines a good decision for me? How do I want to show up in the world, consistently? What makes me proud? What kind of challenges do I refuse to back down from, and why? Your unwavering code might include values like integrity, continuous growth, profound contribution, intellectual curiosity, unwavering resilience, creative expression, genuine empathy, or absolute self-reliance. Perhaps it emphasizes courage in the face of uncertainty, or a commitment to excellence in all endeavors. There's no right or wrong list. It's deeply personal. The key is that these are your chosen tenets, the internal laws you commit to living by. Once you've identified these Summary, the verdict. Welcome back, dear listeners, to our continuing journey through the annals of classic literature, a journey that today culminates in a comprehensive reflection on Edgar Wallace's electrifying tale, The Four Just Men. As we arrive at this summary, the verdict, we're invited not merely to recap the plot points, but to truly synthesize the profound moral and narrative lessons woven into the very fabric of this gripping story. It's a moment to pause, to look back at the intricate dance of justice and law, of intellect and obstinacy, and to ponder the timeless questions this narrative so boldly poses to us. Throughout our exploration of the Four Just Men, we've been thrust into a world where the lines between right and wrong blur, where the very definition of justice is put to the ultimate test. The central conflict, the beating heart of Wallace's masterpiece, lies in the stark, uncompromising clash between the rigid letter of the law and the more fluid, perhaps more humanistic, spirit of justice. You might recall how Sir Philip Ramone, the Home Secretary, stands as the unwavering embodiment of the law's unyielding text. For him, a law is a law, etched in stone, immutable, regardless of its perceived unfairness or the suffering it might inadvertently cause. His aliens expulsion bill, a piece of legislation designed to protect national interests but viewed by many as draconian and inhumane, became the flashpoint, the very catalyst for the extraordinary events that unfolded. On the opposing side, we have George Manfred, Leon Gonzalez, Raymond Poincaré, and Theory, the enigmatic quartet known simply as the Four Just Men. They represent a different philosophy entirely, one that posits that when the law, in its blind adherence to procedure and technicality, fails to deliver true equity, then an alternative, perhaps extra-legal, form of justice must emerge. They believe in a higher moral code, a spirit of justice that transcends parliamentary acts and judicial rulings. Their methods, undoubtedly drastic, even terrifying, spring from a conviction that certain injustices are so egregious, so fundamentally wrong, that they demand a response beyond the conventional boundaries of the legal system. This isn't just a simple case of good versus evil, it's a profound philosophical debate personified, a dramatic exploration of whether the strict adherence to rule book can truly serve the greater good, or if at times, the human element, the compassionate consideration, must take precedence. Consider the immense tension this creates. Sir Philip, a man dedicated to upholding order and the established system, finds himself targeted by individuals who see themselves as custodians of a deeper, more fundamental justice. The law, as he sees it, is the very bedrock of civilization. To deviate from it, even for a seemingly noble cause, is to invite anarchy. But for the Four, anarchy already reigns when innocent lives are threatened by a legal technicality, when human dignity is sacrificed at the altar of bureaucratic intransigence. This ongoing philosophical duel forms the moral backbone of the story, forcing us, the readers, to grapple with our own perceptions of right and wrong. Do we condemn the vigilantes, even if their motives are pure? Do we support the letter of the law, even if it feels inherently unjust? Wallace doesn't offer easy answers, and that's precisely where the enduring power of this narrative lies. It compels us to consider the nuances, the gray areas, and the difficult choices societies face when justice itself becomes a contested concept. The argument is made that law, without compassion, can indeed become tyranny. And justice, without order, can descend into chaos. The Four Just Men operate in that precarious balance, believing they are preventing a greater injustice by committing an act that is legally reprehensible. It's a daring proposition, one that has resonated through countless narratives since, from masked heroes to complex legal thrillers. Moving beyond the moral quandaries, The Four Just Men also serves as an CTA, join the jury. Welcome, esteemed members of our virtual jury. We have just concluded our journey through the gripping pages of Edgar Wallace's seminal work, The Four Just Men. And now, the time has come for you, our discerning listeners, to deliberate. The evidence has been presented, the motivations revealed, the consequences laid bare. The central question before us, the very crux of this powerful narrative, demands your judgment. Were the four just men heroes or villains? This is no simple binary choice, is it? Wallace, with his masterful strokes, paints a portrait of men driven by an unwavering, almost fanatical, sense of justice. They are educated, intelligent, refined individuals, not common thugs seeking personal gain or chaos. Their targets are carefully selected, those whom the conventional machinery of the law has failed to apprehend, or perhaps, even more unsettlingly, those it has simply chosen not to prosecute. They operate with a chilling precision, an almost surgical detachment, in their pursuit of what they perceive as ultimate righteousness. Consider, for a moment, their stated goal: to eradicate injustice that festers beyond the reach of the established legal system. In a world where the powerful often evade accountability, where corruption can poison the very wells of justice, the idea of a clandestine group stepping in to correct these profound imbalances can, on the surface, seem almost appealing. We've all, at some point, felt that gnawing frustration when a clear wrongdoer walks free, when bureaucratic red tape or legal loopholes shield the guilty from consequences. The Four Just Men tap into that primal human desire for order, for fairness, for some ultimate retribution when all else fails. They embody a dark fantasy of swift, uncompromising justice. For those who believe that the ends justify the means, their actions might be seen as a necessary, albeit extreme, measure to maintain a delicate societal equilibrium. They present themselves as a final court of appeal, a higher moral authority when human institutions falter. Their meticulous planning, their unwavering commitment to their grim cause, even their moments of internal debate, lend a certain gravitas to their mission, almost inviting us to empathize with their difficult choices. However, the path to hell, they say, is often paved with good intentions. And this is where the jury's deliberation truly begins to bite, where the comfortable veneer of noble purpose starts to crack under scrutiny. For all their lofty ideals, for all their claims of correcting societal wrongs, the four just men are, at their core, extra-legal executioners. They usurp the authority of the state, bypass due process, and mete out a form of capital punishment based solely on their own interpretation of guilt and necessity. This is vigilante justice in its purest, most chilling form. And while we might applaud their initial targets, what about the slippery slope this kind of power inevitably creates? Who decides who is unjust enough to warrant their attention? What prevents them from succumbing to personal biases, misjudgment, or even outright tyranny? The very concept of individuals taking the law into their own hands, however righteous their initial cause, introduces an element of terrifying instability into society. It undermines the very foundations of the rule of law, which, despite its imperfections, is designed to protect all citizens, not just to punish the perceived wicked. Think about the psychological impact. The fear they instill, while perhaps intended to deter other wrongdoers, also sows seeds of anxiety and distrust. It creates a climate where justice is no longer transparent, no longer accountable to the public, but rather a shadowy decree handed down by anonymous figures. Is that a society we truly wish to inhabit? One where the fear of an unseen hand, rather than the visible hand of the law, dictates behavior? The very secrecy of their operations, while crucial to their success, also deepens the moral ambiguity. There is no public appeal, no chance for defense. Thank you for listening to this audiobook. If you found value, meaning, or inspiration in this journey, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next chapter. Your support helps us bring more timeless classics to life. See you in the next reading.